When done right, a personal rivalry can light up arenas, carry entire shows, and do what we all really want wrestling to do: make us believe. These are the stories where fists fly over betrayal, ego, or just the simple fact that two people really don't like each other. I mean, every feud can't be over a title, right? Well, maybe with all the belts they have today, they could be... What the hell, speed? Sorry, getting off topic. With good creative, two talents can just tell an awesome story that keeps fans on the edge of their seats, and with bad creative, well, I'm Senior Siete for 7 Wrestling. Let's take a look at 7 of the dumbest WWE feuds of all time. Now, before we get into that, we appreciate your support, so if you enjoy this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hammer lock that notification bell. Also, we've got a second channel. Check out 7 Entertainment, all the snark you love from 7 Wrestling, with a broader range of topics. Head over there now to see me, Senior Siete, co-hosting a video about celebrities who have dated pro wrestlers. And finally, we've kind of hit our limit when it comes to Katie Vick, so for our sanity, for your sanity, we're just gonna leave her on the sidelines. Number 1, Trailblazing hair raising. After Survivor Series 2001, the WWE had just vanquished the Alliance in one of the most ambitious and disappointingly executed storylines in wrestling history. You'd think the dust would settle, with clear heroes and villains, maybe a victory lap for Team WWE, but instead, the company hit a giant creative reset button so hard it gave everybody whiplash. Overnight, alliances dissolved, character arcs were thrown into reverse, and several wrestlers seemingly woke up with new alignments and motivations because, reasons. Any alliance member with a belt was allowed to stick around, so the Dudleys, Christian, and Steve Austin got to stay. Never mind the fact that they were all kind of WWE to begin with. Same thing for Test, who had won a battle royal for immunity. First up, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Just days earlier, he was leading the charge for the Alliance and doing everything he possibly could to destroy the WWE, but come Monday night, the Texas Rattlesnake was suddenly back on Team WWE, cracking beers like none of that had ever happened. Then there's Kurt Angle, who literally saved the company at Survivor Series by betraying the Alliance, only to turn heel again the next night and join Vince McMahon. Since Vince was a heel again, so too must be our Olympic hero. Meanwhile, The Undertaker, who had a steady, stoic presence, decided he was done being disrespected and became Big Evil, complete with biker heel energy and a deep commitment to making rookie hazing part of his gimmick. And the WCW, ECW guys, most of them just quietly showed up again like nothing had happened. Rob Van Dam was allowed to stay because he was the WWE Hardcore Champion, so he just kind of stuck around and became a crowd favorite without ever addressing the whole, trying to destroy the WWE thing. Booker T just kind of moseyed back in following a pay-per-view. In short, heroes became villains, villains became heroes, WCW guys tried to find their way to catering without getting released, and that's why that year's WrestleMania was so odd. It wasn't a culmination of the year's storylines, it was whatever they could piece together from that year's Royal Rumble and the addition of the NWO like a month prior. The card was weird. After the Rock Hogan Classic and the Triple H Coronation, you had like Goldust versus Maven and Christian versus Diamond Dallas Page, but at least those matches were for belts, so they kind of made sense. Then there's Edge against Booker T. On paper, this should have been a dream match. 2 potential future Hall of Famers at the peak of their athletic prime, each with charisma for days and momentum to burn. One was a 5-time, etc. WCW champion with unmatched energy and style. The other, a rising star who just come off of back-to-back WrestleMania classics and was on his way to becoming a main event mainstay. This had all the ingredients for a classic, and instead, they fought over a shampoo commercial. Yeah, it was less Clash of the Titans and more grudge match brought to you by Herbal Essences. On the February 28, 2002 episode of SmackDown, the WWE decided that the best use for Booker T, was to have him audition for a fake Japanese shampoo commercial. With full confidence in his self-written pitch, Booker went full cringe saying, "Yo, Japanese people, what's the deal with your nasty hair? Just because you know Kung Fu doesn't mean you know shampoo." Kung Fu okay. Later, after Booker T wrestled Scotty 2 Hotty, the Titantron lit up with the Yakamoshi president announcing their new spokesperson, not Booker, it was Edge. Ooh, and the sparks flew, baby. No, they just let this dumb feud carry them through a 6-minute match at Mania that featured the worst spinneroonie ever and possibly the best sign ever. Number 2, Hat Trick. It is no secret that we here at 7 Wrestling are big fans of the Macho Man Randy Savage, brother. Guy was pure, unfiltered electricity in human form, equal parts athletic freak, madman poet, and fashion disaster in the best possible way. Whether he was flying off the top rope with an elbow drop or cutting promos that felt like Shakespeare on speed, Savage made everything he did feel like a moment. He had the intensity of a supernova, the voice of a gravel-chewing god, and the fashion sense of a sentient fireworks display. No one, and I mean no one, could lace insanity with brilliance quite like the Macho Man. Ooh yeah, brother. He was so cool that when he switched from his iconic star-studded tights to what could best be described as an explosion at a fabric store, we all just kind of went with it. Which brings us to the legendary feud where the Repo Man, a literal wrestling debt collector, stole Randy Savage's hat. In a career full of epic rivalries, title matches, and emotional storylines, this was not one of those. On the January 18th, 1993 episode of Monday Night Raw, the Man of Repo would lay out the Man of Macho and steal his hat. You know, like how girls in high school used to show that they liked you by stealing your baseball cap and wearing it around school. Pretty dumb, right? Well, because it was Randy Savage, he sold it like the Repo Man had stolen the Declaration of Independence and burned down a Slim Jim factory. Fortunately, our national nightmare wouldn't last long as Randy Savage and the artist formerly known as Smash would square off with the hat on the line the very next week on Raw. Savage would easily dispatch of the Repo One and reclaim one of his 2,000 hats. Fortunately, this would be the last time that WWE would base a feud on a stolen piece of. Number 3, Jacket Attack It. There's no doubt that Bret Hart is the best there is, the best there was, etc., but he's also a cranky old coot these days, and I mean that in the most lovable possible terms. That's why my favorite Bret Hart story of all time is about where he got inspiration for the jackets that he and Jim Neidhart would wear to the ring during their later Hart Foundation days. Apparently, he had seen a picture of a similar outfit and was obsessed with having a jacket just like it, and when he handed over the photo to the seamstress, she was a bit surprised to learn that it was a picture of a monkey. Kinda dumb, but also kind of endearing. Where are you going with the Siete? Relax, I'm painting a picture. A picture of a man who loves his fancy faux military ring attire, so much that his family photo featured his wife and kids rocking the same Sgt. Pepper vibe. Enter Jean-Pierre Lafitte, a rogue buccaneer character in the mid-90s played with full swashbuckling commitment by Carl Ouellette, who wore an eye patch and all. Now, while most heels were busy attacking people backstage or interfering in matches, Lafitte went full kleptomaniac and decided to plunder Bret Hart's iconic leather jacket, and to Bret's credit, he sold the theft like someone had violated his soul. Hitman didn't just want his jacket back, he wanted justice, and honestly, we can forgive how dumb the angle was, because this weird little pirate robbery angle led to a genuinely great match in Your House 3. So good that wrestling fella Dave Meltzer gave it 4 R's. R's? Nothing? Alright, moving on. Number 4, Mean Caffeine. Picture it. The year is 2000. Chris Jericho was backstage talking a stagehand's ear off about the new Fozzy CD, bragging about how he gets to co-host Fozzy's performance on Sunday Night Heat. Oh, I'm sorry. This was like 25 years ago. When Chris Jericho's band Fozzy first launched, the gimmick was that the lead singer was named Mongoose McQueen, and he looked and sounded like Chris Jericho, but was a totally different guy. You know, like how Chris Gaines and Garth Brooks were totally different guys. Holy crap, that was 26 years ago. They're the same guy. It's a whole thing. Anyhow, as Jericho turned to leave, he ran right into Kane and spilled a cup of hot coffee on him that was apparently enough to unleash the big red rage monster's inner barista-hating demon. That's it. There's your feud. Honestly, if I were Kane, I'd rather have coffee spilled on me than have to listen to Fozzy. Kidding. Judas is a banger. But yeah, forget long-term storytelling or deep emotional takes. This was blood feud by Starbucks. Kane, who had previously survived being burned alive, electrocuted, and emotionally squished by the overwhelming weight of his own idiotic backstory, decided that this minor coffee incident was the final straw. Chairs were swung, promos were screamed, and somehow this all culminated in a last man standing match at Armageddon, because nothing says gritty war like a storyline brewed from one rogue latte. Number 5, Sister, Sister, Sister. Bobby Lashley has never really clicked with us, which is a shame. He's good in the ring, he's got a body like a friggin' He-Man action figure, he's a handsome dude, but his personality just isn't there. For us, your mileage may vary, but on the May 17th, 2018 episode of Monday Night Raw, when Renee Paquette interviewed the future Almighty, we weren't particularly intrigued, until it got really weird. Bobby talked about growing up with 3 sisters, and when they were little, they used to tie him up in the woods and leave him there for hours. And he thought this was hilarious, right? No. Then he talked about how his sister Kathy used to try to kill him with a broom, which is weird. He talked about how he defended his sister Jessica from a bully. All right, that's better. And finally, how his sister Frances brained him with an army helmet and gave him a scar under his eye. Okay, weird again. This is not good. Finally, as Renee was wrapping up the segment, Bobby interrupted her to tell his sisters that he loved them very much while he creepily looked in the camera. And I remember at this time thinking this whole thing was so off-putting for someone they were clearly trying to turn into the next big baby face. But what if it was intentional and we were supposed to get the heebie-jeebies? If so, mission accomplished, buddy. What were we supposed to make of it? Did the sisters really exist? Were they just a part of Bobby's personality? Oh, the possibilities were bizarre, but also interesting. Am I starting to care about Bobby Lashley? Well, no, I read way too much into it. It was all a setup so Sami Zayn could bring men pretending to be Bobby's sisters to the ring and make fun of him. When this sister speaks, yo, listen. What followed was an excruciating segment where each sister shared a traumatic childhood story, only for Sami to mock them while the live audience audibly begged for death. Lashley, ever the charisma vacuum in that moment, responded with forced laughter and a beatdown. So yeah, I was bummed that instead of getting creepy and saying Bobby Lashley, I just learned that he's a really bad actor. Number 6, Tori Wilsons War. Look, I'm not saying being a writer for the WWE is easy. Take the poor bastards who had to write during the Ruthless Aggression era. I can't imagine what it must have been like every week to have to come up with another reason for Tori Wilson to parade around in a bikini, but honestly, bless them for their service. And the peak of this content, or nadir, your choice, was clearly the feud between Tori Wilson and Dawn Marie. This gem of trash TV brilliance had everything: sexual manipulation, uncomfortable family dynamics, and the slow, painful death of Tori's father's dignity. Dawn Marie's master plan: seduce Tori's dad, Al Wilson, Tori's actual real-life father, who had the charisma of a folding chair, and then marry him, all to mess with Tori. That's it. That'll show her. Naturally, this led to some of the most baffling segments in SmackDown history, including, but not limited to, Dawn and Al canoodling in the shower, Al dressed up like a turkey to interrupt the Pilgrim fashion show, and Dawn inviting Tori to a hotel room for an intimate proposal, which ended up being the infamous lesbian seduction scene that played like a rejected Cinemax pilot that was written by a 14-year-old boy. Al and Dawn Marie would get married in their underwear for, reasons. And that night, while they were consummating the marriage, Al Wilson would die of a heart attack. So if you're keeping score at home, Dawn Marie married Tori Wilson's dad, f***ed him to death. Like a Cartman plot. And we're not done. Dawn Marie would dress like this to Al's funeral, which, if my wife is watching this, take notes for when I go, honey. And Tori would show off quite a bit of décolletage herself, so putting the fun back in funeral, these two. Anyhow, they'd brawl, the casket would fall, and Tori would get clobbered with a lamp. The feud culminated in a match at the Royal Rumble called a stepmother versus stepdaughter catfight, which sounds like a bad adult film, but we'll give Dawn Marie some credit. Wearing a mourning veil to the ring is pretty damn funny. Number 7, Starcrossed Mppers. In 2001, Perry Saturn, legitimately one of the toughest guys in the locker room, roughed up an enhancement talent during a squash match on Jacked. The company's response: not a fine, not a backstage reprimand. No, they hit him with the creative death sentence: a punch-drunk weird guy who loves a mop gimmick. Because nothing screams character development quite like pairing CTE symptoms with janitorial romance. And somehow, this brain-addled oddball act got over with the crowd, because wrestling fans love a good dumpster fire when everybody's fully committed. Now, obviously, this is dumb enough to warrant a place on this list all by itself, but don't worry, it gets dumber. Naturally, WWE couldn't let a good thing breathe, so they made it weird and sad. Saturn's then girlfriend, Tori Wilsons, gave him an ultimatum: it's me or the mop. And he chose the mop, which is kind of baller behavior. She partnered with Raven to kidnap the cleaning implement and hold it hostage. And as poor Saturn stood in the ring helpless, Tori would say, "You're so stupid. At one time you could have had Moppy and me, but you didn't play your cards right, sweetheart." Tori and the mop. The mind boggles. Menage a mop. From there, Raven would do a full-on Mr. Bill impersonation with Moppy and then feed it into a wood chipper. Oh, poor Moppy. At least Al Wilson got to fool around with Dawn Marie before he fake died. Well, there's our list. Did I leave out any other incredibly stupid WWE feuds? So please leave in the comments section below. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and DDT that notification bell. Be sure to check out our new Channel 7 Entertainment that's kicking off with a video that features celebrities who dated WWE superstars. Until next time, I'm Singer Siete for 7 Wrestling saying bye-bye.